Okay, welcome everyone to the last AU eRequesting TDG meeting for the year. Uh, I'll start with an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we all gather today. We pay our respects to our elders past and present and extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We acknowledge the First Peoples as the first scientists, educators, and healers. So today, for our last call of the year, we've got our usual business, approval of minutes. I'll also give an update on the ballot for working standard, where we're at and what's next with that. We're going to do a Connectathon report back. We had some technical issues in the end of our report back at the Connectathon, so we're actually going to get a couple of short demos in that as well. And then we're going to go through the fire maturity model assessment. We've got a number of eRequesting profiles that are at AFMM 0. We need to get them to AFMM 1 for publication. So Jamie's going to take us through that. Jai's going to start a conversation around R2, where we're going with the eRequesting TDG, and then next meeting when we come back in the new year. So I might make a start on our usual business. There are the minutes from the last meeting on the 4th of December. Bring that up. I'll put it in the chat as well if you want to have a look. So I sent these minutes out about a week ago. So they've got all of the decisions from our last meeting, which include the resolution of the final ballot issues, which are all in there. There's got the recording and there's the presentation. Does anyone need more time to review this? Have people had a look? Is anyone interested in making a motion to accept these minutes?
I'll move the minutes. Michael Osborne.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Do we have a second for anyone who wants to read these minutes?
Andy.
Thanks, Andy. Okay, I will launch a vote to approve these minutes. Launch. Okay. All right, we've got, please, it'd be best if everyone can vote. If you weren't at the previous meeting or haven't had a look, you can abstain. But it's good if we can get as many people as possible voting. Okay, we've got majority. We'll end that in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we have 10 affirmative, 0 negative, and 6 abstain. So that motion has passed. Okay. Now we will get on to some other updates. So in February next year, 25th and 26th of February, there's a Sparked Clinical Design Group and AU Core Technical Design Group Community Co-Design Workshops. That's being held in Hobart. So the first day is I think the first half is a clinical design group, but we're also including a combined clinical design group and technical design group workshop as part of that. And then the day 2 is an AU Core Technical Design Group focusing on requirements AU Core R3 and looking at requirements for Encounter Record, which is the next focus of attention in the AU Core space. So if you're interested in attending that, I think a lot of the tickets have actually sold out already, but there are still some available. So follow that QR code and register your interest in attending. So it'll be a good event. I think it's the first time Spark has gone to Tasmania. So that will be certainly a good event. Ballot for Working Standard update. As of the last meeting, we completed all of our ballot reconciliation, and all of our issues that were part of ballot have been applied. So if you have a look at the spec now, you'll see that everything we've gone through and we've voted on has now been applied in the spec. We're still now going through a process of doing QA and making sure everything is complete. But from a ballot perspective, everything is in there. I will show you too, if you have a look on the IG itself, there is a change log. You'll see changes in this version. We've got links to all the JIRA issues that these changes have come through. So if you're looking for a particular change or want to know what's changed through this ballot process, they're all here in the change log. They all link to the JIRA issue, so you can see what the resolution was, see what was applied, and note those differences. So everything is in there that we've been through. So you can see here, there's a lot of changes we have done since our one ballot. So these have all been resolved through our ballot resolution period. So there's a lot been in there, a lot of changes, but it's been awesome effort by the IG authors and like to get all of those in. So it's a good place. So the ballot reconciliation phase is now complete. I'm pretty excited about the next slide here, which is that we have actually got approval status for the number of affirmative votes in ballot. So negative votes have been withdrawn since we completed ballot reconciliation. So you can see at the bottom there, we now have 35 affirmative votes and 10 negative votes. So that puts our percentage of affirmative votes up to 77%, which gets us above the 60 that we need for publication. So that's awesome. We've got there. There's no longer a big red X on this saying that we don't have an approval from ballot. So with ballot reconciliation now complete, we're very much in the publication phase now. That last phase there with a look to try and get the release one of eRequesting published in February next year. So that's an awesome effort. We got there. We weren't sure we would a few times, but we certainly have worked through it. So that's a very big thank you to the community for having gone through this journey with us to get us to this point. So what's next for that publication phase? So this is the HL7 AU publication process. There is a page for this. I will put this in the chat if you're interested in the detail of what happens now. So we're at the beginning of this with the ballot cycle completion. We've done most of the changes now, but what we're actually doing as part of this complete the changes is doing quality assurance to make sure that all the changes are in properly. There's no other outstanding issues and the like, and work through that. And then what we'll do is we'll prepare a release branch. So that's a release of the IG ready for release one. And then this will bring that back to this group and we'll go through the QA report as part of that. We'll go through our AU variance statement and the like, and basically approve it for publication through the eRequesting TDG. What we then do is we take that to the FIRE work group and say that our work group believes that it is complete. And the FIRE work group will review and ensure and approve the publication of that IG. So then we'll go submit it for publishing and it will go through the actual publication process with the publication manager. So they're the things that needs to happen now. So that's why there's a bit of a lead time from us having completed this to actually getting published. We've got to go through all of this process now to finalize the IG. What that looks like on a timeline. So we need to work out when we're coming back next year. So we have the option to come back on the 15th of January. So this is working backwards from wanting to publish in February, which was always our target for this. So working backwards from that February date, we need to get approval for publication from the fire work group on their 11th of February meeting date. So if we don't get that date, there will be no meeting on the 25th or the 26th of February for the fire work group because it coincides with that co-design workshops in Hobart. So the only meeting that we have for the fire work group in February to seek approval to publish is that 11th of February date. So what we would see the week before that or the fortnight before that is the TDG meeting on the 29th of January. We would go through the quality assurance report on the publication branch. We would accept any warnings or errors on that. We'd also confirm our AU variance statement and basically agree that it's ready for publication. So working back from that, if there was any other changes that we needed, the only opportunity for us to discuss those would be the 15th of January. Now, I know lots of people might be on leave. It might not be worth having that meeting on the 15th of January. But if we don't, then there's risk that there's issues that we can't resolve till 29th of January, which then pushes our dates out. So really the 15th of January is there as a catch if we do need to review or make any changes or give the community the opportunity to identify anything that needs fixing before that publication. But the publication branch will be ready to go on the 29th of January, and then we'd seek approval from the firework group at the next meeting. So I'd be interested to know what people's thoughts are about when we do come back. I know this is a busy time of people for leave. I was going to launch a poll. I thought we might do it at the end, but maybe it might be better doing now while we're in this context, talking about when we want to come back. But I'm happy if anyone's got any questions on this process or what we need to do. I'm happy to answer those as well. But I might launch a poll just on what people's thoughts are about when we come back for that meeting next year. So I have launched that. So if you can't attend the meeting, then I suggest that you're saying that you wouldn't come on that date. But if you are available and can come, I would suggest that date. Another few seconds for people to vote. Okay, I think we've got a good number of people voted. So I'm going to end that poll now. I'm going to share the results. Okay, so that's pretty clear that we had 11 people suggesting that the 15th of January was a good idea. And we had 2 that said 29th of January and then 9 for no preference. So I think that's probably the safe bet that we do hold that 15th of January. What we'll probably do is we'll do a bit of a walkthrough of the IG. If there's any issues that we've got, we'll resolve them in that meeting. But we'll only take up as much time as we need in that meeting. So if we don't need the full hour and a half, we won't take it. But it does give us a good opportunity to walk through and identify anything that may need fixing before publication. And then that will keep us on track for publication in February. So you'll probably see in the calendars, I think the meeting schedule runs, it might have a new year, 1st of January or the like meeting. I'll remove that meeting. I'll ensure that 15th of January is lined up as our next meeting. And we'll do that. Okay. Report back from the Connectathon. I'm just seeing if it runs here. We'll So we had a Connectathon in Melbourne a couple of weeks ago now on the 9th and 10th of December. And it was actually last week, was it? The days are blurred. And this is an overarching slide across all the tracks. Lots of arrows there, which arrows are good things because it means people are connecting to each other. So this was across all tracks. We had over 18 organizations in the room. And actually we had 18 participating in testing. So I think we had 91 people attending. We had lots of systems connecting. So this was across AU Core, patient summary. There was a smart track as well as eRequesting. Most of ours were down the bottom with these blue arrows. Lots of people testing with the Spark server, which had the latest version of the IG in it. It was giving people the opportunity to test against the current implementation that we have. What we were trying to achieve as part of from an e-requesting perspective at this Connectathon. So it was an opportunity for anyone to sort of gain a better understanding of the e-requesting IG, whether that was your first time or you were experienced with it. We had people with a broad range of experience. And one of the key things we were trying to do here was actually test against the release one preview of the IG. So we had most of those changes from ballot in this release. We had a snapshot of that release ready for the Connectathon, so it was able to test that current version, looking for anyone to find any issues and raise those issues, and also just to contribute to our ongoing test coverage of eRequesting so we can progress through AFMM over time. For eRequesting, we had a number of participants, Orobox, Creative Thinking, Magentus, Helios, Cyro, Telstra Health, LRS Health, Kestrel, and Epic. So we had a good mix of people there. So some of the notable achievements. So we had some requests that were actually transformed from sort of standard API style requests into Fire. And then using the Fire test server and the eRequesting IG. So it was basically the transformation of standard API requests to Fire and back again. Andy Magentus was testing their bundles against the eRequesting Fire server to see how compatible they were. And we had Firebird, this Orobox there, had full read coverage. They queried everything across the eRequesting IG to test that. Some of the issues we found on the day. First thing was that the Spark Fire server didn't have profile validation turned on, so it was actually accepting anything, which was good. People were doing some testing. It was like, hang on, it should have rejected that, but it didn't. So we turned that on, and then it started rejecting invalid requests. So that was a good thing we found and turned on. We noticed that our eRequesting coverage type and self-pay codes value set was missing the HIP, private health insurance code. We have raised a backlog issue for that. It's not a major issue though, because it is in the broader value set. It just wasn't in our narrowed value set, but that's there in the backlog. And we also found an issue with the Smile CDR implementation that the Spark Fire server is using. It wasn't validating references in the bundle. So Andy noted that, and then we went looking for why. There was a problem with the version of the validator that is currently used in our version of Smile CDR that we've got. I think Andy went through about 20 versions trying to work out which version of the validator it got fixed in. So it's not using the latest. So that bug has been fixed, and hopefully when we patch that server, it will resolve that issue as well. Now, this is where we didn't get the opportunity to do some demos at the end of the Connectathon, which we normally always do. We had some technical Mac issues, not being able to display on the screen. So we thought we might take this opportunity to just do some quick 5-minute demos of these now. So the TDG can get a look at what some of the things that we were doing in the Connectathon. Michael, do you want to go first? I'm not sure I actually saw Chris in this meeting.
Yeah, I can go first.
Yep.
I'll try and share my screen.
Yes, trying to.
Okay. How's that? Can people see that?
Yep, got it now.
Okay. Let's put that down there. This is a demo app. So the idea is that it's a placer system. It's also got some filler features. It'll do task management and stuff like this. This was all vibe coded too, by the way. So if anyone's looking at creating an app, it's not too hard. So essentially, so this might be, say, a doctor's system, and say we want to look at Tony Baratz here. She's come in. We can just pull up her patient summary quickly, see that she's had some lab results, vital signs. Oh, she's had some allergies, something like that. Maybe she's pre-op and we want to do a diagnostic request on her. So she's in Bunbury Hospital. And she's gone to see, I don't know, Astrid Lavender. Oh, that's not working for her. Why it's not working for her, I don't know. This was working a minute ago. uh, yeah, okay. All right, so it's working now. I'm not sure, there's a little bug there. So we're just going to pull up anybody and we're going to ask for a RAS test. So a RAS test is like a skin allergy test. It's just going to go onto a server to look that up. And we see here we've got a allergen sorbent test. Obviously, we need RAST in the synonyms for this one. We can select fasting, say, versus Ferdinand, so he's not pregnant. And then you might want to put in a reason, so it's pre-admission or something like that. So this is going to the Onto server again, selecting that code out. You can add a copy doctor. You might want to send it to a nurse or something. I don't know. Check for allergies. And then this has got a little toggle button here. You can add a narrative to the bundle, or you don't. If you want to, say, do an example for an IG, you can unselect that. Then you'll end up with, so originally I thought I could send it directly to a server, but I thought if we're going to be testing against multiple servers, we may as well just create the bundle and send it using Postman. So I'm just going to pop that into there. Send that to the eRequesting. So this is going to the AU eRequesting server, so the Spark server. You can see it successfully passed validation. Now, some of the issues that we had were with the document reference. And you'll see that the only way I could get this to work correctly was to pass in document reference as a type here, and also the same for the in the supporting info. So, and the same would have been for the pregnancy observation because of that issue that Michael Wilson was talking about with the fire server. Okay, so now on the filler side, I've got this little task management page. It's going to look at Carrington pathology. And you'll see this is just a test of how we update statuses. So you can see that this is trying to test out the state tree, so we can change this to accept in that state diagram. And then that's doing a patch. You'll see the little server go down here. So now it's in accepted. You might now want to change it to in progress. And you might want to set a business status. Well, booked is probably not the right status, but you can sort of walk it through that state tree. You can also see which tests are being requested down here and in a few details about the service request. So this was just about trying to test the workflow, essentially, and there's a similar thing for radiology over here. So if we wanted to choose one of the radiology clinics. It doesn't seem to be working. It's not refreshing. Oh, yes, it is. Okay. So you can see there's an X-ray of fingers over there. So that's it. This is a little open source app. The original repo was by a guy called Davey Mason. I've sort of coerced it into this, and the repo's here if you ever want to check it out. And it's just installed on this on render URL, so you can play with it live. So thanks for listening.
Thanks, Michael. Did you want to put those links in the chat?
Yep, no
Yeah.
worries.
That was really
It
good.
was, yeah, it proved to be a pretty good little test app, that one, just for playing with the IG and flushing out some of the issues. So it was pretty good. Like you said, the vibe coding, it works pretty well. Did anyone else have any feedback from the Connectathon they wanted to share? Any insights? No. All right. But it was a good event. There's certainly lots, as there always are. There's lots of people, and we made lots of good connections across all different tracks. So I do
Michael, if I
mention-
could.
Mm.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't have made it, but it's in terms of software development is what we're doing here. Did you find that the challenges that the standard was up against wasn't so much the concepts that we're dealing with, but it was all this reference data, all these lists of values, and trying to get everyone to agree what lists we were using, or was that not the case?
Well, I don't know. I'd be interested in actually the community's thought on that, because I think we've been through a lot of these meetings. I think for me, it's probably as much as anything the shared understanding that we have lots of people in these calls, from new timers, first timers, right through to those that have systems in production and that are doing this now, right? So I feel like a lot of what we've done for this at the moment is actually getting us to a point where we understand what we're trying to model, and then trying to map that to fire is that next level of knowledge, and actually bringing the community up to that shared understanding, that level, like just being involved in these conversations where people are talking about low level details in fire, right, and how fire deals with it, is, I think that's the level of complexity in eRequesting is a lot more than something like AU Core, right? Because we have workflows and state machines and all these type of other things as well that go on top of just the pure data model as well for what a request is. So I think there's multiple ways to look at it, and the complexity is on all sides, right? It's and trying to get us to that point where we all understand what we've got or what we need and how we do it. Yeah, Brett.
I just want to say, yeah, good work. Recognizing that this whole business is actually task management, and that's really the workflow you're trying to manage. Because I think we're coming from a tradition of much simpler message-based kind of trigger-based things. So I think it's seeing stuff like this is really interesting in terms of how it's modeled.
And I think we're going to find now too, as we move on from R1, is that getting more real world implementation experience with this, right? Is those bits that we need to focus on, those bits we need to tune. I think that was one of the hard parts, I think, along the way too, is where we draw that line in the sand for R1, is that we can't boil the ocean, right? We can't do everything. And trying to work out where we landed on R1. I feel we're in a good place. I think we got to a good place where we drew that line in the sand. But now moving into sort of people picking this up, implementing it, about what we need to do to further mature it. Andy?
Yeah, I was going to say that what is an R1 is very compatible with where industry has taken this in the last couple of years. There are, at this point, 40, 100,000 requests happening on a monthly basis. based around exactly this foundation. So there are lessons I think we're learning along the way in terms of things that work well and things that don't work so well. And it has provided, I think, a direction for some future needs that are pretty important to invest in going forward. So rather than just being a kind of a bit of an academic exercise, this seems like a good idea, maybe it'll work. It really does work, and it really does deliver clinical value. So I think those are the things to really latch onto, because this is not trying to create a faster fax. It's actually trying to deliver better clinical outcomes, and therefore a better clinical experience and collaboration between an ordering clinician and a servicing diagnostic provider. And that's, I think, something that we really can be proud of achieving.
Oh, very well said. I think that's good. I was sort of relating because back when I first came to Australia, I was working with IBM and we were building financial services standards. So all the banks standards, we've had them now for 20 years. Everyone, the banking industry is happy to exchange financial services data over certain standards. And I guess that's what I'm trying to draw the parallels between where we're going with health. And so that it doesn't matter what kind of institution you are in the health industry, you'll be able to communicate with this health standard. And I think because the concepts about delivering health or receiving health care, we can relate on how it applies physically, mentally, psychologically, right? There's so many ways we can go with this, and establishing this pattern right off the bat I think, is proving really, really successful.
Yeah, definitely. We might move on to the next now, which is our fire maturity model assessment. Jamie is going to lead us through this. Jamie, do you want to share? Do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll share if that's okay, just
Yeah,
so that I can flick around. Okay. Is that sharing okay for the assessment slide?
Yep, we can do that now.
Awesome. So in terms of where we're at for eRequesting in preparation for publication, we have 5 new profiles that we have included in eRequesting as part of the ballot resolution process. So profiles that are reference profiles that we've created to basically replicate what is an AU core profile and add the eRequesting actor obligations. And also, as part of the ballot resolution, another artifact was a new value set for communication request category. So for those artifacts to be included in the R1 publication, they need to be assessed and agreed to be basically ready for implementation and moved to AFMM 1. So AFMM, just a quick recap in case there's anybody on the call that's not aware, is the Australian Fire Maturity Model. And it's an assessment basically of how ready or complete an artifact is, and an indication to an implementer of its stability. So say, for example, draft 0 is where we're drafting new content when it's being discussed and implemented in the continuous integration build. It will then be assessed when it's ready and I guess decided as relatively complete as AFMM 1 when the QA has been checked and assessed and accepted by the work group that there's no errors or warnings that we're not happy to proceed with. And then later on down the line, once it's been tested by a range of implementers and we have test data, I guess, to support that, it may move to AFMM 2, which is again a higher standard in the AFMM process to indicate that it's ready for implementation. So in terms of where we're at for these artifacts, draft 0 is where they're at now. We've got an initial draft in the IG based on the profile design principles that we agreed. Then we will look this morning to move these to AFMM1. So the criteria for AFMM1 is that, so draft 0, so the artifact's published in the CI build, and it's has no warnings or errors that have not been accepted by the responsible work group. And the responsible work group has indicated that they consider the artifact substantially complete and ready for implementation. So in terms of the warnings and errors that I'm referring to, I'll just open up the QA report just to have a quick glance at. So if you go to the implementation guide, scroll all the way to the bottom, you can access the QA report down here. And this will give an overview of the IG publisher, which is the tooling that does an automated build process and a range of checks on the content that is in the IG, and will produce errors or warnings. So say, for example, today we're looking at eRequesting encounter. So there are different levels. We've got informational warnings, which are not part of the AFMM assessment process. We've got warnings, which are part of this process, which we'll look at today. And then there are errors as well. So these, I guess, are an indication to the IG editor that there is something that needs to be looked at. It may or may not indicate an issue in the IG. It may just be something to consider. It may be a best practice recommendation. So as part of the authoring and editing process in the IG, we continuously review these warnings and errors to make sure that what we're adding or producing is appropriate. It, behaves as intended and follows best practices. So, yeah, so I think that's probably all that we need to look at there. So going back to where we're at today, so for these 6 artifacts, so the 5 profiles and 1 value set, in terms of the AFMM1 assessment, the artifacts are complete through the community feedback and agreement process with the TDG. So we've had the TDG discussion, sorry for the spelling error there. We've had changes through ballot reconciliation and then also testing as part of the December Connectathon as well. And then we're sort of at this second part here where the TDG will assert or agree that the QA report for these artifacts are complete. Sorry, not complete, are acceptable. So no errors or errors that we've acknowledged and accepted, or no warnings or warnings that have been reviewed and accepted as well. So for the artifacts we're looking at today, for the communication request category value set, this one, I'll run through the warnings that this artifact has just as an FYI, but there are 2 warnings that have been accepted already by the FIRE work group, so nothing that we need to really consider or approve there. For the 5 new profiles, there are some new warnings, and I guess it's an indication of the IG publisher behavior as well, that these new warnings only appeared in the last couple of days. Even though there's been no changes to the profiles themselves, there has been a change to the terminology server that they're validating against. And so it's throwing a warning, but it's something that we understand will be fixed in the near future. So we'll run through that as well. So for eRequesting patient, practitioner role, and the communication request category artifacts, these are the warnings that are present that have previously been accepted by the FIRE work group. This is just an FYI, just that they are there, they are expected and have previously been accepted by the FIRE work group as acceptable warnings for now. They relate to canonical pinning and also for health terminology composed value set, not resolving because there isn't an NCTS package for the publisher to be able to reference and resolve for those. So just an FYI that these ones exist for those artifacts but have been previously accepted. So I'll move on to the ones that are new. So for the 5 new profiles: encounter, organization, patient, practitioner, and practitioner role. So these profiles were based directly or derived directly from AU core profiles. There were no changes to the profiles other than adding the obligations for eRequesting actors. And this warning, there's an example here. So definition could not be found for canonical URL, and it's a health terminologies value set URL. These warnings are inherited from AU base because these are all derived from base, then core, then to the eRequesting, and have only occurred over the last maybe 2 days. And from what we understand, there has been an addition of an authoritative terminology server, which has now flagged these new warnings. So it's a tooling generated warning, and it relates to the server being able to resolve these URLs. There's no issues with the profiles themselves. There have been no changes to the profiles themselves. So the issue's been raised by Michael Osborne on Zulip, and is working with Michael Lawley and Graham to resolve these warnings, given there are no actual issues, and the warnings are occurring after a change to the server. So that's it really. So for these 6 artifacts, there are some warnings that have previously been accepted by the firework group, and then these new warnings that I would like to propose that we accept, understanding that there are no issues or changes to the profiles themselves, and we expect that this warning will be resolved hopefully in the near future. Before I make a motion though, I'll just open it up if there's any questions or comments on this.
That sounds
All good.
sounds good, Jamie. You covered it all off.
It's very dry, I know, but we then can move to a motion. So I would like to motion that the artifacts that are shown on the screen, so eRequesting, encounter, organization, patient, practitioner, and practitioner role, and then the communication request category value set in eRequesting are the warnings are accepted by the eRequesting TDG, and that we move these to AFMM 1 in preparation for publication.
Thanks, Jamie. Is that clear? Would anyone like to second that motion?
Andy will.
Thanks, Andy. If there's no more questions, I will launch a poll once I find my window again. Interesting. Oh, here we go. Found it. Hopefully you can see that now. So that's the current motion to accept the warnings on those profiles and move them to AFMM 1. Okay. All right, I think we've got enough there. We'll just give 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll end that poll. We have 16 plus 1 in the chat, so 17 affirmative, 0 negative, and 2 abstain. So that motion has passed. Okay, excellent. So that was the last main thing we had to do for publication, other than anything we find now through QA and reviews. Preferring publication, that's when we'll come back on the 15th of Jan and do that final walkthrough. But that's setting us up well. So what we'll do now too is we take that decision we've made now for the AFMM 1, we take that to the fire work group. So we'll take it to the next available fire work group meeting to get endorsement for those profiles to go to AFMM 1. But other than that, I think we're moving now on to JAI and release 2. you want me to share the screen, Jai? Okay.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. Thanks, Matt.
Okay. I'll chat about release 2. So,
all right. So good afternoon, everyone. I think most of you know me, but I'm from the Department of Health, Disability and Ageing. So I'm one of the leads with the Spark program from the department's perspective. I just wanted to have a chat with you today, just to give you some, I guess, some understanding and perspective around what it looks like to move from release 1 development in eRequesting into release 2. I think, you know, the sort of setting the scene here, we as a community have worked very hard over the last 2.5 years now, since the introduction of the Australian Fire Management Framework through HL7 and the commencement of Spark, to really focus on what does it look like to, I guess, have a structured and accelerated approach to developing national fire standards. And obviously through, you know, the last couple of years, we've had a number of different projects stand up, and eRequesting being, I guess, a key one of those. That, you know, congratulations to everyone that we've now landed, and we're about to publish it in February. That's a fantastic outcome for us. And I think as part of the sort of the introduction of the fire management framework and broader discussions around how we manage fire development in Australia, and there's a key role here with HL7, and Spark itself is running through a HL7 process. It's just that, I guess, in terms of awareness and probably connection, Spark has been the big sort of brand that's been focusing around for the last couple of years, because that's where, I guess, you know, from an accelerated process, that's where we've had the focus. But it's important in terms of our maturity to move into a business as usual frame. So with that intent, with the move for eRequesting from release 1 into release 2, we're intending to move that into business as usual with HL7 Australia. So they will take over the, I guess, the leadership and running the project. But noting, I guess, that there's a level of support that's required to run some of these IGs, and particularly national IGs. We've got agreement from the Australian Digital Health Agency that they'll provide secretariat and development support. So I guess the key thing to flag here is that it's moving out of that accelerated mode with Spark and is moving into a standard HL7 approach. But with that, we're still looking at, you know, following the processes of balloting and, you know, engagement and so on. So there is some broader work that's happening with HL7, and, you know, there's been some information that's been sent out around the governance and operations manual and moving from the international into an Australian format. And there'll be some more information that will be provided as part of that. But I think in terms of transitioning into the new year, we're looking to do some planning around what it actually means to transition from an accelerated sparked development into a HL7 business as usual. And there's some more discussions that need to, I guess, be worked through around the mechanics of that and the timing for that. But I think the clear thing that I wanted to say is the intention is that we're still supporting the development of eRequesting. It's still a priority and still important. It's just that we're trying to, I guess, move into that mature model where we can have multiple streams of development happening, both continuing some of the development through the accelerated process with Spark, but also having our standard HL7 approaches, as well as you would have seen from the agency recently with the provider directory, also focusing in on the AFCP process and having the Australian Fire Community Coordination Committee overseeing some of the projects as well. So it's a positive that we're building this mature model in Australia, and certainly with the transition from eRequesting R1 into R2, we wanted to, I guess, make it clear that from a data perspective, we've obviously got the eRequesting data for interoperability. That will be rolled into the AU CDI as part of release 3 of that product. And the coordination of, I guess, updates and inclusions for data in that frame will continue under Spark and Spark governance, with the CDG assessing, you know, the backlog and any further, I guess, data requirements that are fed into that process. But from an eRequesting perspective, we're working through planning as to what the transition looks like. And as part of that, we'll be, I guess, collaborating and communicating with the community coming into early next year, just to see what it means and, I guess, how it looks to transition. As part of that broader GOM work with the with HL7 Australia, there's also some discussions around what requirements will need to be met with that and what it means to move into, I guess, the new version of work groups and I guess renewing or updating co-chairs and so on. So there's a lot more to talk about and work through in the coming year, or I guess moving into next year. But I just wanted to make sure that people were aware that there's an intention around the movement between release 1 and release 2, but that this is, as we have shown through the process of developing R1, this is about community engagement and just working through what makes sense and how we transition through. But I would assume that might raise a few questions, so happy to take questions from the floor, or if there's any other comments anyone else wants to make from the partnership group.
No comments. I think it's one of the things here clear is that we have been developing HL7 AU standard all along. So that while Sparked was supporting an accelerated development of that process, it is and always will be a HL7 AU standard. So I think that's one of the key things here is about it's just about the day-to-day sort of running of it, whether it's being supported by Sparked directly or not. But it is remaining where it is, and the ongoing governance of it remains with HL7 AU.
So as we move into the new year, there's obviously a backlog of items that we haven't been able to get through in release 1, so we'll need to work through that as a community, as well as looking at the scoping for release 2. So that will all form part of that process. But there'll be some further communications sent out in the next couple of weeks, pending obviously Christmas. But as we said, we'll have some further conversations as part of the TDG group, as well as setting up some other engagements around the planning and the transition approach. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, I think the other thing, so our co-chairs, I think, term expire at the end of this year, obviously with the new HL7 AU GOM and the like, and transitioning into that. I assume we're just going to sort of maintain a sort of interim position for those co-chairs until we go through that new process with the new GOM. If that's my understanding where we might be, I'd be interested if anyone else, Andy or Brett or others, have any thoughts on that?
Yes, that is, I think, the way we will move forward. We're hoping to see more of that AU GOM implemented in the first quarter next year, and that will formalise the HL7 AU way of doing business, where we need to make some tweaks in terms of what the HL7 International GOM might do. Then we can make sure it's fit for purpose within the Australian context. And as you said, the consistency through all of this is the kind of commitment to the HL7 AU standards process and consensus basis by which that moves forward. So certainly don't walk away thinking it's kind of a done deal and we have no more involvement. In fact, we're going to have more and more involvement and need going forward, because as this begins to get greater traction and use, then it's going to be a lot more opportunity for places to take this, both within this specification as well as in things like, for instance, reporting and how we get reporting into this mix and have greater kind of implementation support for all of those who are going to be trying to take this up and use it in anger.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, like ideally, like this will be a pretty there'll be some good continuity into the R2 project and the way that the groups are running. So so the idea is that we're not really hoping to disrupt anything. We really just want to move on to the next stage, and and a lot of the things will stay exactly the same. The meetings are HL7 Australia meetings. We run them the same way. The voting's the same, and the balloting's the same. So pretty much that will continue on to be as we've done before.
Yeah. I think for Andy's point, it's definitely stick around, because this is the interesting part now is when people are implementing and taking the standard, and it's what I've always told people too, is like get involved, because rather than just having to put up with something that doesn't work for you or you don't like, actually continue that community involvement and feeding back to help improve it. moving forward. And on Jai's point, we're not done. So there's only the beginning. Anyone else got any questions for Jai or others on this? Obviously, our focus coming back is to get to publication still. So the first couple of meetings we'll be focusing on that, but then looking about how we transition to determining the scope for R2 moving forward.
Just wondering if one of our HL7 friends wanted to give a little bit more detail around the GOM. I'm not sure how much awareness there is of the GOM.
I was going to. Oh, Ruben is here. Are you alive, Ruben?
Here in spirit.
I'm happy to say something. So HL7 Australia has been working on the GOM, which is really the manual around how HL7 operates. So internationally, it's kind of like the Bible of HL7. All references point back to the GOM, which is a manual operations manual, and it says things like how elections are held, how voting's done, how working groups operate, how projects operate. It sets up all of the kind of the foundational elements of the operation of a standards organization called HL7. And for the most part, we pretty well follow HL7 International GOM in terms of what happens, but there are differences. There are differences in terms of scale in terms of participation in Australia versus international. The true foundations around things like, for instance, preponderance of influence and things obviously equally have a relevance here as they do internationally. But there is a scale of working groups and projects that may be a little bit different. So some of these aspects, we knew it wasn't a perfect fit into the HL7 International GOM. So Ruben especially has been leading a charge to define an HL7 Australia GOM. It is one of the deliverables of the HL7 Australia board to come up with our version, and then it was put up and shared this year. And the intent is now about operationalizing it, which is really making very concrete how we're going to take some of that stuff forward. And that includes constituting the appropriate working groups and things to ensure that we have a sustainable Australian HL7 mechanism to support the development of standards specifications for Australia. So we're just in that process at the moment of taking it forward. We're wanting to make sure that all of the artifacts and the language we use inside HL7 Australia is consistent and then links back into all of those procedures and policies that the HL7 Australia GOM define. There's nothing radical in it. There's nothing strange. It merely tries to ensure that the work we do has kind of that North Star of H7 Australia is, at the end of the day, standards organisation whose trust and commitment from the community comes from the standards process and the standards we put our name behind. And that's what the GOM is all about supporting. So you will, as I said, hear more stuff Q1 next year as we look to create the artifacts that will support eRequesting, AU Core, and the other pieces. We're also going to create in Australia a TSC, which is a technical steering committee, which will begin to take over some of the roles that the HL7 file working group, HL7 AU file working group does currently. But that's really just a maturing, I think, of HL7 Australia and having that overarching technical guidance that lives in a broader entity called the TSC. So you'll see some voting come out for membership in that TSC group going forward as well. That's really the main things. Obviously, at the moment, we have one fire working group. We are planning on constituting a couple of other working groups to support the different pieces of work going on. We do want the community to pitch in, and where you have ideas of work, they don't have to be as wholeheartedly resourced on a full-time basis as maybe Spark was able to do through Accelerator, which we greatly appreciate the outcomes we were able to achieve with that. But we also, as a business as usual, can have areas of work which are of interest to the members of HL7 Australia. So if you've got an area that you say, we do need greater consistency and community approaches defined within some areas, then by all means bring that to the HL7 Australia community, and we will find a home and support the discussions and the outcomes it wishes to achieve.
Thanks, Andy. Anyone else got any questions for anyone around this topic? No. Okay, we can move on. Obviously, yeah, we'll look at how this transition pans out in the early part of next year. But yeah, while we still focus on getting our release 1 published. So on that's where we're at. We decided we're going to come back on the 15th of January. We'll do a review of the IG in that meeting. If you've got any issues you've identified, please raise them as jurors, or bring them to that, preferably raise them as a juror, but otherwise bring them to that meeting so that we can try and resolve it then and there. Then we'll do on 29th of January, we'll have a release branch ready to go for the 29th of January. So that's final, sort of no changes on the 29th of Jan. We'll just go through that QA report and accept any warnings or errors on that. We'll also confirm the variance statement for AU IGs is complete and acceptable. And then we'll endorse approval of that from the eRequesting TDG. We'll take that to the fire work group meeting on the 11th of February and seek approval to publish. And then we'll hopefully get publication in February. And we'll have the Sparked community workshops on the 25th and 26th of February coming up then too. So that's our plan for the new year. Happy holidays. I think we all deserve a great break. But we've got a little bit of time. So if anyone does have anything they'd like to discuss now, we've got plenty of time. But otherwise we can move off into holiday mode.
Hey, Michael, is it just worth noting that it is always the case that at any time in or out of ballot, you can always propose a change in an implementation guide. There's a link at the bottom of the implementation guide.
Point.
That just follow that link, and any time is a good time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't just wait until we're in ballot mode or anything. Get those things in, and we will make sure as a project that we are accumulating all of those and making sure that we take note of them.
That's right. Yeah, as you find them, that's what we encourage people to do when we're at Connectathons or any other time, is this button down the bottom, propose a change. So you find anything in here you don't like, you want changed, you want added, raise a juror using this propose a change button. Exactly. Then it appears to us as the co-chairs, we can see them, we can bring them to our planning meetings when we're looking at scoping what we're doing next. So yes, raise them at any time. It doesn't have to be a ballot cycle. They'll be there and go in the backlog for things to look at. So yes.
Boxing Day at a loose end.
Sorry, what was that, Brett?
It's Boxing Day, you're at a loose end,
Oh yes.
Maybe raise some tickets.
Yeah. Is that what your plan is?
After a few beers.
Hell no, that's not what I'm doing.
Watching the cricket, I think.
Probably.
But look, it's a good pattern to get into. Like as we move into R2 and we're developing that, don't feel like you have to wait, and then we get 99 issues again, and we have to try and work through that through ballot. if you identify it, you raise it early, and then it gives us a chance to really work through it and understand what that means for the next phase of development.
Excellent.
Okay. Anyone else got anything before we finish up?
Just,
So
I just want to say,
sorry, Michael.
I just wanted to say that I found the TDGs were like really easy as far as accessing, being, knowing what time the meetings are on, all that sort of stuff. I just hope the new process will be just as easy and not like just an abundance of committees. That's looking at that document, the governance one, it's like, I don't know where to start. So I just a point to think about if you're in the governance part of it.
Yeah, I don't think you should notice any difference. We kind of have an obligation to kind of define the domain of how everything works. But for most regular people, you will have a window into the area of work, and it should just look like a TDG in terms of how it operates, because the TDG have been following those processes anyway. So none of that should work any different.
Megan.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. I also just wanted to say that we will make sure we put out whatever the new processes is for feedback. So, Michael, if there's something that, looks over cumbersome or hard to find, please make sure you put that in the feedback.
Okay. Well, we might leave it there. Everyone deserves a good break now. I think we've had an amazing year for eRequesting, from where we were to where we are now, ready to publish R1. I'm absolutely amazed how we came together to get that done. It wasn't easy for any of us, and I think we've got a really good outcome for R1. I'm really happy with it. I think we all should be proud where we got to, and onward and upwards from here. So.
I'd like to also say thank you to the co-chairs for their leadership, and that's excluding me. I think that there's been times where we've had to hit the ground really quickly, and the co-chair group really worked well despite differing backgrounds and differing, I guess, intentions in the beginning. And I think we've landed there through the community development, but also the drive from the co-chairs. So thank you to the group, and thank you to yourself, Michael, for your leadership.
Thank you. Okay, well, thanks everyone. And we'll see you in the new year.
Bye-bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye.
All the best.